Hi everybody, welcome to the Wild Ginger Running YouTube channel live broadcast and subsequent podcast. Today we are talking to Mel Steventon, who is the founder of Due North Events. So welcome Mel, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good, thank you.
Awesome. Well, first, we just got to do a little shout out to our sponsors, Naak Sports Nutrition. They make energy bars, waffles, energy and recovery powders, and real food purees in pouches. And coming soon, or possibly out right now, energy gels. So I'm going to try them soon on my next race when I recover from my bronchitis. So if you want to try them, use code WildGingerRunning for 15% off at uk.naak.com. So Mel, thank you so much for coming onto the show today. This will be a really interesting one. I don't think that we've had a race director on here before. I have organised a race called the Neem Valley Races 10 and 20 mile events near to me. I organised it for 3 years and I know how much effort goes into these things. But first of all, before we start talking about the event side of things, I'd really like to sort of roll the clock back and just ask you how you personally got into running in the first place.
That is a good question, seeing as I used to avoid sport at all costs. Yeah, I did. So I was in my late 20s, I think, when I first sort of dipped my toe into the world of running, simply because I was dating a guy who, I fancied and wanted to impress him. And he said that he was running marathons and he was smoking a fag and drinking a pint. And I thought, well, he's not particularly athletic, so if he can do a marathon, maybe I could do a half.
Yeah.
So to try and win him over, I entered the Great North Run. 6 months later, did the Great North Run. We were living together by then, so I wrote running off. I've done it, I've ticked a box, and that was it, sort of thing. And then fast forward a few years, that relationship ended, and I was then in my early 30s. And I'm sure a lot of people can resonate with this. If you're newly single in your early 30s, everyone else was getting married and having kids and lots going on, and I was just like Billy No Mates. And sort of remembered that feeling. It's like looking back over the last few years, remembered that feeling what I got when I was running, and I was living in the Dales then. And the race aside, because that was like I did the half marathon in 2 hours and 4 minutes, and I was absolutely over the moon at that.
Brilliant.
I'd never run for the bus before that.
Yeah.
But people were, oh, you're disappointed. 2 hours, sub 2 hours is the half marathon.
The holy grail.
And I think that's why I sacked the running off. But I'd sort of remembered the feeling of my own running and running around the Dales and how that sort of just lifted my mood. I felt like I was just more confident in myself back then when I was, training for months. And I just thought, well, I'll give it a go again, because I know the end of that relationship I was quite down and just wanted to avoid getting sort of into depression and what have you. So I started running just along the canal, and I had this rule: if I can get up to 3 miles, I can join a running club. So I got up to 3 miles and I went down to Skipton AC, and that was it. I met all my current best friends now are from Skipton AC or from running of some sort. And a friend dragged me along to my first fell race very quickly into running. I went to a fell race. I think we came second to last at Ilkley Fell Race. It was hailstoning. We were covered in bog and absolutely loved it. And that was it. And then I think 18 months later, I was doing my first ultramarathon.
Wow.
So it was all pretty.
It spiraled from there.
Obsessed with it. Yeah. And made lots of new friends, and it changed my life.
Yeah, I think the best kind of people are like running-y, outdoorsy, like people who love the outdoors are sort of like our tribe, aren't they? So it's great that you found them there, and it's great that they swooped you up into fell running really quickly. So what would you say are your most proudest achievements in the world of running to date?
I think it's got to be completing the Bob Graham round.
Wow.
Which is 5 years ago now. So last week it was like the 5-year anniversary of the Bob Graham.
Congratulations, that's amazing achievement.
Thank you. And so it's weird because it was 5 years from from starting running to doing the Bob Graham.
Wow.
So that seemed really quick, and
Yeah.
then the next 5 years has gone really quick, and I've sort of gone downhill with my own
You
running.
peaked really early.
Yeah. But then I guess the other thing I remember feeling really proud was a couple of years ago. Maybe 18 months after the Bob, I did the Wainwrights round. So I took Steve Birkinshaw's route and did that.
Oh,
Um,
cool. How
and I was
long did you do it in? Did you make a bit more of a nice time of it, or did you slug your guts out and not sleep?
I slogged my guts out, but I was injured after day 3, so it took me 13 days. So it was after 3 days, it was a walk, really.
Yeah.
A really painful walk, but I did love it. It's like being on holiday with my mates for a couple of weeks, really.
Yeah.
And except my accommodation was a transit van.
Yeah. Sounds
But
great.
yeah, after that, and then we went into another lockdown, and like didn't look after myself very well at all, and then lots of personal things going on. So my running just went downhill. But then Paul Tierney was helping me a little bit with training, and I went to do the Loughrig Fell race, which is about 4 miles, so the complete opposite to what I enjoy doing.
I don't think I've done that one. I did one near that, but yes, I can imagine
So
this is
typical
literally up and down.
Yeah, and the other end of the scale to what I'm comfortable with, and I was absolutely petrified. But I made myself go, and I did it. Much slower than my previous times, but that, I think I'm proud of myself for doing that, because I was so scared. I'd got out of running. I totally lost myself for a couple of years after lockdown and what have you. And I think, God, that's what it's like for women that come on my introduction courses who have never raced before, and I'm giving them all this, and but I had to do it myself. So I had to go, and I couldn't bottle it, because then I'm just a hypocrite to all them women that are trying out.
Yeah, and I don't think you realise something like that until you're in that position yourself. When I came back after having Finley, that was it for me, because previous to that I'd just been exercising most of my life. I hadn't really put on loads of weight or anything like that. I was kind of generally all right in the top sort of third to halfway, and now I was like DNFing, I was grazing the back of the cutoffs, I was really struggling. And I remember I went out on a run with some local running people, and they're all like road runners, and I'm just coming from an ultra running background, having just had a kid, and they all just sped off on the road, and I felt really demoralised because no one waited for me, and 2 friends did wait for me, and they were running at the back, and they said they wanted to be there, but I just felt really rubbish about the whole thing, and I was like, I need to remember this moment, because this is how other people feel most of the time, or some other people anyway, and it was a really useful experience.
Yeah, definitely, for me to remember that, rather than just saying it to people. It's easy to say, isn't it, when you're doing it all the time. So it was good for me to do that, and as I was as proud as doing that 4 miler as probably finishing the ball, because they're both equally as hard, but in obviously different ways.
Yeah, I totally see that. Yes, I think it's good to be proud of small things as well, and things that maybe you didn't even finish, and just be proud of your reactions to things and your attitude to things, rather than all these big achievements like completing things. So I think that's really cool. And so did you set up Due North events only recently then? Tell us about how that came about.
7 years ago I set up Due North.
Also before COVID then?
Before COVID, I'd been running myself a couple of years, and like I say, got quickly obsessed with it. I was a gardener before, so I had my own gardening business. So I was outside, and I think I worked out sort of from my late 20s that I need to be outside. So, and then when I started running, that sort of introduced me to all kinds of things. So I went on a map reading course for the weekend with the FRA, and I met loads of cool people there, and some I'm still in touch with. And I was going on these weekends away, coming up to the lakes and the dales and experiencing all kinds of things. And I was like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
And not exclusively, but sort of more particularly for women, I wanted women to have somewhere they could go turn up on their own if they had to, and meet other people and learn things and just feel confident, because my confidence then just grew, and I bought a a sort of 30-year-old Bedford camper van, and I was coming up to the lakes
I
by
love
myself
camper vans.
and got the dog and did all these things that these experiences had sort of built my confidence to do, and I wanted to create that for other women, really. So that was the start of Due North, and the first year was sort of planning the routes. So I came up with 3 routes in the Yorkshire Dales that would become half marathon races for year 2. And I sort of thought, well, it's quite methodical. So to build an audience, I was doing introduction to trail running courses. I was doing guest speaker events. So I had like Nikki Spinks and Billy Bland come along and do talks just to build up an audience for the first year for the races, which did work because looking back, the first year of races, the numbers were, like 200 entries for year 1, which is great, really. And actually, say Kettlewell's never really got above that. COVID, obviously, then a couple of years later, I left the gardening job, put everything into Due North events, and we went into lockdown 6 months later. So
that was devastating, wasn't it, for so many events?
Yes, it was. It's been a struggle, and it's sort of, sometimes it feels like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but numbers have increased the last 2 years, looking at the race numbers, and particularly the women's female entries have increased, and now I've made the change to become a not-for-profit social enterprise company.
Okay. Because
I was doing a lot more sort of with the social aims rather than it being a profitable business. So I made that switch just a couple of months ago.
Yes, yeah. And tell us a bit about the races that you organise as well. So you started off with the 2 or 3 half marathons. Now, what can people expect from Due North events?
Yeah, so there's the 3 half marathons, and each of them now have a 10K.
Yeah.
So surprisingly, the 10K entries are lower than the half marathons. But looking at sort of the entries, the lower distances tend to be higher. So I think it was 70% female entries on the last 2 10Ks. Over the 2, it equals out to be about just under 50% female. So that's gone up massively because it was about 30% female in 2018.
Yeah.
And then, now I have the Ultra as well, which was formerly known as the Trod. It's now the Ultra Tour Yorkshire Dales.
Ah, cool.
So that's October. There's 25K, 50K and 100K. And the 50 and the 25 are open to walkers as well. So it's really, the ethos behind it is trying to make outdoor events more accessible.
Yeah.
And diverse. So, opening up, not having such tight cut-offs in there, and having sort of the guided recce's and introductory courses as well, hopefully means that we're getting, a wider mix of people attending the events.
Yeah, so for the race formerly known as the Trod, which I'm sure I've heard of, did you sort of buy that one off them, or did they?
No, it's always been a Due North event.
Oh, okay. I'm sure I've heard of it.
So the Yorkshire Trod, it was, I think 2019 was its first year. It missed one because of lockdown. Entries have been low, but I'm reluctant to give it up because it doesn't make me any money, but it doesn't cost me any money. I came up with a route, so I'm sort of emotionally attached to it, and I absolutely love it, and I believe more than anything that it should become a classic like the Fellsman. It is. It's a beautiful route. Everybody that finishes, in fact, they compare it to the Fellsman, and it's sort of 6 months apart, so it works well as a training run for each.
Tell us about the route then. Where does it start and where does it go?
It starts in Grassington. So each course, the 100, the 50 and the 25K, all start in Grassington.
Okay.
And the full course is sort of a figure of 8. So it takes in Malham Tarn, it goes down to Arncliffe, Upton Pike, and then the Dales way back to Grassington. And then from there, you stay on the Dales Way a little bit, and you go up sort of a little rocky feature in near Bolton Abbey called Simon's Seat. And you come back down sort of between Bardon Tower and Bolton Abbey, and then across the moors back over Bardon Moor back down to Burnsall, and then back to Grassington. So it's a really interesting route. It's runnable. It's got some climbs, but yeah, so the majority of it is a runnable 100k.
Yeah, is it on paths mainly rather than roads?
Yeah, it's footpaths and bridleways.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm putting that on my list now.
Do.
What time of year is it?
It's October. It's the last weekend of October.
Perfect. I'm free. I'm coming.
Do, and then tell everyone about it, because it should. I mean, that's the reason for rebranding it is to just try and reach people, and I'm really trying to push that event this year because it is such a good event.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, because I wanted to do the Race to the King 100k, and I went to report on it on Saturday. I hope they don't watch this, by the way. Excuse me, I've got bronchitis at the moment, so I couldn't run it. But I do want to do a 100k race at some point, and right. So but just reporting on the race, it was an absolutely fantastic race, like yours, very diverse, very female friendly, very supportive, great race. But I noticed that a lot of it was sort of like on roads and quite hard packed paths, right. Through sort of, because it's down south, the scenery wasn't quite as impressive as the stuff you get up in Yorkshire. So yeah, I was kind of thinking, I don't know if I could stand 100k of that. So yours sounds
it's the Ultra Tour Yorkshire is mixed. You've got sort of moorland, you've got stony bridleways, you've got sort of grassy fields, so you're not, and it's just change of scenery all day long.
That sounds much more like my bag. Okay, well, if I manage to get over this bronchitis, I will definitely come and make a film of that race, and then hopefully that will make it loads more people do it the following year as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm really impressed about, you were talking a little bit before about the level of female participation that you've managed to get in due north events. Do you think that is because you are a female race organiser? I know I think most of the race organisers that I know of are male. So it's it's not usual for a woman to organise these races. Do you think it's because you're the race director, or is it because you're a woman, you think of all the things that women would need more than they do, maybe?
Yeah, I think both them things. So if other women, they're seeing that it's organised by a woman, that might help. But yeah, I guess I am. The thing is, women are not weak, are we? We're a strong tribe, so we don't need pampering and looking after. And I hate the thought of a male race director sort of pampering us, thinking we need pampering. We don't. I
went to the outdoor show one year, and it was really annoying because there was an adventure space, and there was an adventure for women space, and it had like a nail bar and like a massage thing, and it was just like, I'm a woman but I don't paint my nails. Like, why shouldn't men paint their nails if they want to paint their nails? Like, I have had my nails painted to go on ultras before, like Cape Wrath Ultra. I got the little logo painted on my nails or something like that, or like Cape Wrath Ultra painted on my nails, like for fun. But
but how does that link to?
This does not look like shellac or whatever it's called.
Dear me. Right, okay.
So don't patronise us, but do make the cut-offs a bit easier, because we're not as fast sometimes.
And it's those things, it's working out, and because I wasn't sporty, but I've always liked the outdoors, and I don't mind getting my hands grubbing, all these things, and sometimes I do have to think about other women and what types of things. Like, I don't mind going for a wee outside, but some women have never done that, so it's about thinking and just putting info on the website, where the toilets are, and sanitary products. That was another thing for me, because at first I was like, well, I always put a tampon in my bag because I never know, and it's part of my kit. Do I want to provide these things? Because then it's just more disposable stuff at my events, and So it has been a bit of a personal battle as well, because I look after myself when I'm racing, so I expect others to. But then I was like,
Yeah.
hang on a minute. If I want more women there, it's probably a different group of women who are brand new
Yeah.
to spending the day outside. So if for their first experience they've got a little bit of help,
Yeah.
then so be it. But we don't need pampering.
Yeah, and it's also not providing the perfect event for you personally, it's providing the perfect event for lots of different people, and they might all have different needs. So it's, yeah, I think you're really wise to recognise that.
Yeah,
Because you've got quite a big, like, your pictures on your website are amazing. There's ladies running in headscarves. They're obviously like Muslims, and you've got a really diverse cross section of humanity at your
yeah.
events. How did you, how did you encourage a really diverse section of people to come along?
I tell you, because I started running as an adult, so when I was going to fell races, I was like, everyone here, most people here are male, but everyone here is white. And sort of like Ilkley Fell Race, so you're near Bradford and Keighley, and even sort of on the Lancashire border, there's huge population of South Asian communities. So why is it? And I worked with and friends with people from all ethnicities. So I noticed it as an adult. I guess if you've been running from a child and you're used to being surrounded by that environment, you don't notice it. Because I stepped into it as an adult, it really stood out to me. I was like, well, I'm gonna. So when I set up Due North events, that was always one of the things I was going to do, was increase female participation, but also reach out to other communities. So it was sort of door knocking. So I was contacting sort of Muslim groups, going into Bradford and speaking to community groups in Bradford and asking, sort of doing talks to them about my events and asking if there was any barriers, and going from there really, and seeing what they had to say, and then putting on women only events and beginner events has been a really good way to do that, and doing that around the Bradford area as well. But once I made them links, the word spreads, and I guess it's like women's football, isn't it? My 8-year-old niece thinks that women's football is normal to be on the TV because she sees it. So that in her head, that's, an opportunity. She can go and play football if she likes. Whereas if you're a Muslim woman wearing a headscarf and you don't see anybody like that taking part in sport or outdoor activities, it's not going to be appealing, I guess. And that was one of the comments that I got in one of the meetings I went to. I put my banners up and I gave my leaflets out, and one of the guys said, well, straight away, everybody on here looks the same.
Yeah.
So I had to, and they're real images, they're not like models, they're images of people that have come on my walks and my runs, and I've asked them, can I use these on my literature and what have you, and they've been happy to do that. So I think putting those, I did an introduction to trail running 2 weeks ago, and it was advertised as women only, and it was all Muslim women that booked. And when I asked, what made them book, they said the poster. So the poster was Tahira, who's been on the course and is now becoming a run leader for Due North.
Cool.
It was her image and another lady, a white lady, 2 of them on the poster. But they said, the fact that there was a niqab wearing Muslim woman on the poster made them feel comfortable about booking.
Yeah, and it's that simple, which is brilliant. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. I just think it's really, really good to reach out to communities, because you want as many people to run as possible, don't you? It's just such a great thing to do, so good for physical and mental health. Like, why shouldn't everyone have access to that? That's really brilliant. And so it doesn't sound like it was particularly challenging for you to make your events really female friendly and really diverse. Like obviously you've worked hard in doing it, but it doesn't sound like that was like a real challenge or anything. Are there any things that you find really difficult about being a race director? Like, are there any days when you go, oh, I wish I hadn't chosen this as my path?
Yeah.
What's really hard about it? Give us the gory details.
The week before Kettlewell, I messaged my partner Paul and I was like, I'm quitting my job. And I was just tired, and it's time and money are the most challenging things, because it takes a lot of time and it doesn't pay that much money.
Yeah.
You know, people think, oh, it's £35 for an entry.
Or more these days. Try £135.
Yeah, so my half marathons are £35, but you get really well looked after. You get a pie at the end, you get some due north merchandise, and you know, your live chip timing in that, and the car parking, all that costs money. So and you obviously need a certain amount of entries to break even, and then after that you might make something. When you work out, if you were to work out your hourly rate,
don't do it.
No,
don't do that.
It wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah.
So when you're tired, and I was making an effort to go around all the landowners the Friday before, just to just to remind them and see if there's anything they wanted me to change from last year and things like that. And I do that every year.
Yeah.
Make an effort to do that. And I was just tired. I'd slept in the van the night before, and I was thinking about that, the time versus the money coming in, and it didn't seem to add up. But then a week later, I had the race. It was amazing. Everyone had a great time. So I love my job.
Yeah.
I do love it.
I suppose you can bring more money in by getting sponsors, can't you? I suppose that's the way people make a living out of it, and they go, yeah, well, you could ask Naak if they want to sponsor you. They're sponsoring this podcast. And yeah, I suppose if you have time, you could always do that.
Sports shoes.
Oh, cool.
Sports shoes have been a support for the past 3 years, and they bring a brand to each different race. So sort of providing prizes doesn't cost me anymore. So that's great.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it is really challenging. I remember when I used to organise the Neem Valley races, there was a lot, especially the first year, in setting up the original route. That took a long time, but it was a bit of a passion project for us. We all had jobs, so it wasn't like our livelihood. So we were just meeting up for runs, and then just marking the course takes, marking the course, being there, and then dealing with all the queries beforehand. That takes up as much profit as we made from that race. So I decided it was a lot easier to earn money elsewhere. And also, I just find you're obviously different to me, but I'm really slapdash when it comes to the whole health and safety aspect. I'm from the old school sort of fell running sort of, oh well, don't need to, people should look after themselves. But nowadays you can't do that with races, can you?
No,
you really can't. You've got to employ some kind of doctor or nurse to stand around waiting just in case anyone falls over and twists their ankle. You've got to have insurance. You've got to have risk assessed the entire thing. You've got to worry about whether there's cows in the field and tell all the farmers. And I just that's not my personality at all. So I really applaud you for being so diligent.
I don't enjoy it. I hate risk assessing, and I just. Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky because I know enough mountain leaders so some will come as volunteers, and sometimes it's paid staff. So they are the first aid on the short, like the half marathons and things. But it is a bit of a headache, and explaining to new runners why they need to carry their kit.
Oh, that would drive me insane.
Yeah, that's. And disqualifying runners I had to do at Burnsall.
Did you?
Because they were in the top 3 and they'd not carried a single bit of kit. So I had to do it, and I hated it.
Yeah.
But thought in any other race they would be disqualified. So don't be a wimp.
Oh no, you did the right thing.
Do it.
What did they say? They weren't horrible to you, were they?
No, they totally accepted it. And in fact, one of the chaps returned to Kettlewell, the second race last week, and proudly showed me his full kit and took second place again. So he got his prize this time.
Yeah,
so.
he got his prize eventually. Yeah. Oh, that's good. And what are the highlights of being a race director? What do you love most about it?
I guess, and like my races are aimed at from new trail runners, aren't they, to all levels. So I think seeing those newer people, the women coming from an introduction course to then completing a half marathon, that makes it feel just all worth it, really.
Yeah. So you're like excited for them and their achievements and their progress. Yeah. Because it is super excited. Like after Race to the King, I just put an Instagram post up and people are like, oh, I saw you there. I was doing my first ever 100k or my first ever ultra 50k. It was, and just their excitement reinvigorates you, doesn't it? For the ultra running world, like
it helps me. And I think this lass came on a course 6 months ago, and now she's done that. So get yourself out, Mel.
Yeah.
Get off your ass to go and get out training. So it does help me as well.
Yeah, I found it really inspiring, that race. The other thing I found really inspiring at that race, and I put on that Instagram post, was just the fact that not only was there like loads of different colours of people there, like different ages, and I just found that really good, but there was quite a lot of larger people there as well. And since having Finley and having bronchitis and putting on a bit of weight this year, and last year, eating too much cake at Christmas, I just kind of feel like, because round here all my friends are runners, like they're all slim, like most of my friends are runners actually. Anyone I hang out with is like basically beautiful, and it just was really nice for me to go to an event and just think, I can still do this. I can still do it. And also seeing the older people there was great, because I was like, well, I can't do it right now, but there's still loads of time. Like I could maybe even be 70 and still maybe even complete an ultra. So that was really good too.
Yeah, especially when you see Nikki Spinks and she gets quicker at things.
Yeah.
She's in her 50s, I'm in my 40s. So I think, you can still get quicker as you're aging, then that's fine.
Yeah, and that's not even my aim anymore. I think my main aim with ultra running is just not be in pain, as like I can't put up with the pain like I used to be able to, or I'm just like, well, why would I do that if it's not fun anymore? So I think that's where the experience comes in for me. And is there, like, coming from a race director's point of view, is there anything that you'd like entrants to know, like competitors to know, that would help your event run more smoothly? Like, what's always really like a annoying thing that people could stop doing?
Well, to reiterate again, the kit. That. So, but that's all on the website, and I think what happens is, my entries close on a Tuesday for the Saturday race. I always get people on a Wednesday asking, I didn't know entries have closed, can I have an entry? And this is, of course, my busiest week.
Yes.
And then people asking lots of questions that week because they might have booked it 6 months ago. Now they're in a panic because they've got a race on Saturday, and I get that. But it's all on the website. Like most of it is on the website. And if it's not, and you've got a question, I could have probably answered it more thoroughly a month ago. So I think if people just, when they're entering races, be sure to know, like, you've read the details on the website, and most people do site entries to book now anyway, so it's on there as well.
Yeah. Before
contacting the race director. But I don't mind that, especially like a lot of women who are doing it the first time get in touch, and I hope I do find time to message like quite thoroughly and the best I can to put them at ease, because I know what it's like when you think you're going to an event that's full of athletes and you're the only non-athlete, and I know that feeling. So I do try and answer people thoroughly, but some things could just be found on the website. So I think
check the website first.
Check the website, and if it's not there, ask me before the week of the race.
Maybe you could have like an out of office that says look at the FAQs, and if you still can't if you still can't find it, then email me again.
Yeah.
And then that would say, look at the FAQs.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, it sounds really involved, like this is your life's work, but what do you do when you're not running or organising the races?
I am generally outside, to be honest. So whether I'm walking with the dog or I started gardening again because I bought this house a couple of years ago and I've got a tiny little garden at the back, but it's full of plants now. It's a bit of a jungle, and my house has got a lot of plants in it as well, actually.
Yeah.
So that's I can lose hours just pottering about with my plants and stuff. So.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. My husband's really into gardening as well. He's got a day off today and he's actually in the garden right now doing some gardening.
Yeah, and it's finally like summer outside today.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's finally a nice day. That's really interesting. I wonder what you think. This is just a question that's just occurred to me. Like, I joined Green Runners back in November, and one of my pledges was to do a conservation day for every race ultra that I did this year.
Okay.
So I did some, because I work for the BMC as well, the British Mountaineering Council. I planted some sphagnum moss in return for doing the Arc of Attrition 50, or well, DNFing the Arc of Attrition 50 in January. And yeah, it just suddenly occurred to me that as you like gardening, I wonder if there's any like conservation days you can put on, like in that way, like fix the fells type of activity.
Yeah, possibly.
Footpath repair and gardening, because it is a lot about like landscaping, but on a bit of a massive scale. Sometimes those footpath works.
It's something similar crossed my mind in that now that we're a community interest company, and I work part-time at another community garden as well, that actually it's being outside that's really good for us. It doesn't matter whether we're running or walking or just sat, listening to the birds or watching the birds and stuff. So I have thought about that even sort of a little community garden project, just to get people outside for their mental health, really.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I was kind of thinking about linking it to the places where your roots are that people run. Like, is there footpath repair work that could be done there? It's just something that it just came to me because you like gardening.
Yeah, no, it is a thought, and because I do a lot still with the Yorkshire Dales National Park, and they were, I had a conversation about how they fund repairing their stiles and gates and all of this. And I did think, maybe a contribution of race entry could go back into conservation in the national park, because of the footfall that the events make, really. So that is a good idea.
Yeah. I suppose you could make that optional, couldn't you? Or you could just add on £1 to all of the events. I think our event was £39, and £1 went to Kingscliff Footpath Repair Works. When we did it. Yeah. Yes. Oh well, that's very good. It's very exciting, and I'm going to have to look into your Tour de Yorkshire 100k event and see if I can make it next year. I do have a friend who's turning 40, so I'm just hoping it's not that weekend because that's already booked. But how do people follow you? How do people enter your races? Tell us how people get in touch.
So the website is duenorthevents.com, and Facebook is Due North CIC. And Instagram is Events Due North.
Awesome. So everybody get following and get entering Mel's events, because they sound absolutely fantastic, splendiferous. Oh, we haven't talked about what food is available. Do you want to just quickly run through, tempt us for the last thing with the food?
Everybody talks about how good the food is at the Ultra Tour Yorkshire Dales, formerly the Trot. Pizzas, pastas, sandwiches, sweeties, fruits, soups, hot casseroles at the finish, pies. There's always pies at the half marathons as well. It is something that everybody, when they finish, comments on how well stocked the food stations are. So.
That's amazing. Well, I'm there. You've sold me at pies. So we'll have to leave it there for the today. But first, before we go, we have to thank Naak Sports Nutrition for sponsoring this live broadcast and podcast. So I am looking forward to testing out their energy gels that they've just released on my next ultra, and maybe that will be the Ultra Tour of Yorkshire. So if you want to try some, use the code WILDGINGERRUNNING for 15% off at uk.naak.com. And thank you so much, Mel. It's been really lovely to chat to you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
And I really hope that this talk inspires many, many, many more people to sign up to all of the fantastic events at Due North. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.